Someone is loving you honestly because you love them without conditions, and that truth is quieter than thunder yet stronger than any promise ever spoken aloud. It lives in the way they look at you when you are not trying to impress, when your guard is down and your flaws are breathing freely. It lives in the pauses between words, in the moments where nothing is demanded and nothing is withheld. You did not bargain for their affection. You did not perform for their approval. You simply showed up as yourself, open-handed and open-hearted, and in doing so you taught them what safety feels like. Unconditional love is not loud. It does not announce itself with grand gestures every day. It is patient. It listens more than it speaks. When you love them without conditions, you did something rare. You removed the invisible contracts that so many people carry into relationships. You did not say, "I will love you if you stay the same," or "I will love you as long as you never disappoint me." You said, without even realizing it, "I see you as you are, and I am still here." That kind of love rewires a person. It softens defenses built over years of disappointment. It loosens the grip of fear that whispers, "I will be left once I am truly known." You did not try to fix them. You did not turn their wounds into projects. You allowed them to be human, and that permission was healing. When they stumbled, you did not withdraw your warmth. When they doubted themselves, you did not weaponize their vulnerability. You stayed consistent, and consistency is one of the most powerful languages love can speak. Through your steadiness, they learned that affection does not have to be earned daily through perfection. They learned that mistakes do not equal abandonment. They learned that love can be a place of rest instead of a battlefield. Because you loved them without conditions, they began to love you honestly. Honest love is not driven by fear. It is not constantly checking for exits or preparing for loss. Honest love is relaxed. It breathes. It trusts. They love you not because you fulfill a role or meet a list of expectations, but because your presence feels like home to their nervous system. You became a safe place, not by trying, but by being real. Think about how many people grow up believing love is something fragile, something that disappears the moment they are too much or not enough. Think about how many people learn to hide parts of themselves to stay loved. When you refused to make them shrink, when you did not punish them for being complex, you broke that pattern. You showed them a different way to connect, one rooted in acceptance rather than control. That lesson does not fade easily. It settles deep, becoming a reference point for how love can feel. Someone is loving you honestly because you did not use their past against them. You did not keep score of their shortcomings. You did not remind them of who they used to be in moments when they were trying to grow. You allowed them to evolve without holding their history over their head. That generosity created trust. Trust is not built through words alone, it is built through repeated experiences of emotional safety. Every time you chose compassion over judgment, you added another brick to that foundation. Your love did not come with ultimatums. It came with curiosity. Instead of asking, "Why are you like this?" in frustration, you asked it in understanding. You were willing to learn the shape of their fears, the origins of their reactions, the reasons behind their walls. That willingness communicated something powerful. Your inner world matters to me. When someone feels deeply seen without being criticized, honesty becomes natural. They no longer need to hide or pretend. They can love you from a place of truth instead of performance. Because you love them without conditions, they learn to trust their own worth. Your love reflected back to them a version of themselves that was not broken or deficient, but whole and deserving. When someone starts to believe they are worthy of love as they are, the way they love others changes too. Their affection becomes cleaner, less tangled with insecurity. They stop clinging and start choosing. They stop fearing loss and start appreciating presence. That is the kind of love they are offering you now. This love shows up in small, consistent ways. It shows up in how they remember what matters to you. In how they listen without trying to fix. In how they stand beside you during difficult moments without making it about themselves. Honest love does not need to prove itself constantly, it simply exists, steady and sincere. It mirrors the way you love them, freely, without manipulation or expectation. You may not have realized the impact of your love while you were giving it. Often, unconditional love feels ordinary from the inside. It feels like simply being kind, patient, present. But to someone who has known conditional affection, it feels extraordinary. It feels like relief. It feels like finally being able to exhale. When you gave them that experience, you changed the way they relate not only to you, but to love itself. Someone is loving you honestly because you did not leave when things became inconvenient. You stayed when conversations were uncomfortable, when growth was messy, when emotions were complicated. You did not equate difficulty with failure. You understood that connection deepens through honesty, not avoidance. By staying engaged rather than shutting down, you taught them that love can handle discomfort. That lesson allowed them to meet you with the same courage and openness. You did not rush them. You respected their pace. You allowed trust to unfold naturally instead of demanding vulnerability on your timeline. That patience communicated respect. It told them that their boundaries were safe with you. When someone feels respected, they feel empowered to show up fully. Their love becomes intentional, not reactive. It becomes honest, not guarded. Because you loved them without conditions, they learned that love is not something to fear. It is something to grow within. They learned that closeness does not automatically lead to loss. They learned that being known does not guarantee rejection. These realizations are transformative. They turn survival-based attachment into genuine connection. They turn fear-driven behavior into conscious choice. The love they give you now is a reflection of that transformation. This kind of love is not dramatic. It does not thrive on chaos or intensity alone. It thrives on mutual respect, emotional availability, and shared presence. It feels calm, even in passion. It feels secure, even in uncertainty. It feels honest because it is not trying to be anything other than what it is. That honesty exists because you made space for it. Someone is loving you honestly because you did not abandon yourself while loving them. You did not lose your identity or silence your needs. You showed them what healthy love looks like by modeling self-respect. You demonstrated that love does not require self-erasure. That example taught them how to love you without possession or control. They love you as a whole person, not as something to own or manage. Your unconditional love did not mean tolerating harm or ignoring boundaries. It meant choosing compassion without compromising integrity. It meant holding space while still holding standards. That balance is rare, and it teaches others how to love responsibly. The love you are receiving now carries that same balance. It is honest because it is rooted in mutual dignity. Sometimes, unconditional love is misunderstood as weakness. In truth, it requires immense strength. It requires the courage to remain open in a world that often rewards emotional armor. It requires the wisdom to love without guarantees. When you chose that path, you did not just love someone, you led by example. You showed what it means to care deeply without controlling outcomes. That example inspired honest love in return. Someone is loving you honestly because they feel safe to be themselves with you, and safety is the soil where genuine affection grows. They do not have to impress you or compete for your attention. They do not have to hide their fears or exaggerate their confidence. They can simply be, and that freedom makes their love sincere. You may notice that their love is not perfect. Honest love never is. It includes mistakes, misunderstandings, and moments of vulnerability. But it is real. It is accountable. It is willing to repair. That willingness exists because you taught them that love does not end at the first sign of imperfection. You taught them that connection is built through care, not avoidance. Someone is loving you honestly because you loved them when they doubted themselves. When they questioned their value, you did not agree with their self-criticism. You held a vision of them that was kinder than the one they held for themselves. Over time, that vision became internalized. Now, when they love you, they do so from a place of greater self-awareness and self-compassion. Their love is less about filling a void and more about sharing fullness. This love is not transactional. It is not keeping track of who gave more or who owes whom. It flows naturally because it is grounded in appreciation, not obligation. You set that tone when you loved without conditions. You gave without keeping score, and in doing so, you invited the same generosity back into your life. Someone is loving you honestly because you did not try to mold them into your idea of who they should be. You accepted who they were becoming. You celebrated their growth without demanding it. That acceptance allowed them to relax into the relationship, to explore who they are without fear of losing you. When someone feels free to grow, their love becomes expansive rather than restrictive. You may not always feel the weight of this truth, but it is there, in the way they choose you daily, not out of fear, but out of desire. Honest love chooses, again and again, even when circumstances change. It chooses because it wants to, not because it feels trapped. That freedom is a direct result of the unconditional love you offered. Someone is loving you honestly because you listened with your heart. You heard what they said and what they could not say. You paid attention to their silences, their hesitations, their unspoken needs. That kind of listening makes people feel valued. When someone feels valued, their love becomes attentive and sincere. You did not rush to label or define the connection prematurely. You allowed it to unfold organically. That patience removed pressure and allowed authenticity to emerge. The love you are receiving now carries that same authenticity. It is not rushed or forced. It is present and intentional. Someone is loving you honestly because you showed them that love can be a partnership, not a power struggle. You met them as an equal, not as someone to dominate or be dominated by. That equality fosters respect, and respect is the backbone of honest love. Your unconditional love created a space where truth could live comfortably. In that space, masks were unnecessary. Games lost their appeal. Manipulation had no purpose. What remained was something simple and profound, two people choosing each other with clarity and care. Someone is loving you honestly because you believed in love even when it was risky. You chose openness in a world that often encourages detachment. That choice mattered. It mattered more than you may ever fully know. It planted a seed of trust that grew into something real. If you ever doubt the impact of your love, remember this: honest love is not accidental. It is learned. It is cultivated. It emerges in environments where acceptance is real and kindness is consistent. You created that environment. You were that experience. And now, you are receiving the echo of what you gave. Someone is loving you honestly because you showed them that love does not have to hurt to be real. It does not have to be earned through suffering. It can be gentle, steady, and true. That realization changed the way they love you, and perhaps, the way they love themselves. And even on days when love feels quiet, when it is not wrapped in grand gestures or dramatic declarations, it is still there, grounded and sincere. That is the beauty of honest love. It does not fade when the excitement settles. It deepens. It becomes woven into everyday life, into shared routines, shared silences, shared growth. Someone is loving you honestly because you loved them without conditions, and that kind of love leaves a permanent mark. It teaches the heart to trust again. It teaches the soul to open without fear. And once someone learns that love can be safe, they do not forget it. They carry it forward, offering it back to you in the most genuine way they know how, and this is how it settles in the end, not as a dramatic climax, not as a perfect resolution, but as a quiet knowing that stays with you. Someone is loving you honestly now, not because they are afraid to lose you, but because they understand what it means to truly have you. They understand the value of a love that did not come with threats or conditions, a love that did not demand proof every day. They recognize that what you gave them was rare, and rare things are treated with care. Their love feels different because it is rooted in choice, not survival. They are not loving you to fill a void or to escape loneliness. They are loving you because being with you feels aligned, grounding, real. They have learned that love does not need chaos to feel alive, and they no longer mistake intensity for intimacy. What they feel for you is steady, awake, and deeply present. On some days, their love shows up as silence that feels comfortable instead of awkward. On other days, it shows up as effort, intentional, thoughtful, consistent. It shows up when they protect your heart even when you are not watching. It shows up when they choose honesty over convenience, vulnerability over pride. This is not love that disappears when things get hard. This is love that leans in. You may not always notice it in the moment. But there will be times when you look back and realize how gently they held you. How they never made you question your worth. How they did not play games with your emotions. How they stayed emotionally available instead of retreating into distance. These things are not accidental. They are learned behaviors, shaped by the way you once loved them without conditions. Because you loved them freely, they learned to love responsibly. Because you loved them patiently, they learned to love consciously. Because you loved them without fear, they learned that love does not have to be defended or controlled. And now, the love they give you is not rushed, not forced, not fragile. It is grounded in understanding. Even when words fall short, even when life becomes noisy, this love remains honest because it is anchored in truth. There is no pretending here. No version of themselves they have to maintain to keep you. No version of you they are trying to change. There is acceptance, mutual recognition, and a shared sense of safety that does not need constant reassurance. And if you ever wonder whether loving without conditions was worth the risk, look at the way they love you now. Look at the sincerity, the effort, the care that feels natural rather than performative. That is your answer. Love given freely does not disappear, it transforms. It returns, shaped by gratitude, strengthened by trust. This is the quiet reward of unconditional love. Not perfection. Not guarantees. But something far more meaningful. A connection where honesty feels safe, where love feels chosen, and where two people meet each other without armor, Someone is loving you honestly now, because once upon a time, you showed them that love could be kind, steady, and real, and they never forgot what that felt like.